All
All right, we're going. We're live.
So, what episode number is this?
Dude, I don't know because we like restarted with a new name and everything like that. So
Yeah.
let's call this episode 1.
Okay. All right.
And like I feel like now we're actually gonna keep this name. You know,
hmm
I feel like this is a name we can keep.
Well, let's be honest. I think I think the honest truth of this episode is that maybe in 200 light years, when like this apocalypse thing is over, and the next breed of humans is roaming the Earth in like spacesuits and shit, they'll pick up a computer and find this recording and be like, "Damn, this was taken right before the COVID-19 outbreak."
Oh God,
Happening. Or I could see this being,
this is the end.
yeah.
Yeah, this is the end.
Today we're going to talk about COVID-19 and training.
Yeah, dude, I'm making some serious gains without going to the gym though.
See,
I mean, I feel like you can. Like, I think people are stressing out for no reason. Like, there's a lot of shit you can do in
yes,
house. Like,
the whole quarantine thing I haven't experienced yet because I haven't been in a house. I've been at the firehouse for the past 10 days, which isn't really quarantine.
how many people are you around?
It depends. Every day is different. It's it always depends.
Are you adhering to the White House guidelines recommending that you're not less than
Um,
10 people?
uh, well, to be honest, we usually are around 8 to 9 people, so I
Yeah,
think we're I think we're right around that number.
that's good. That's
We
good.
don't exceed, yeah, I don't think we really exceed that number of people all that often. So yeah, I definitely don't think that I've been intruding on that. Now, it being like in a small town location, you really see the effects of closing down businesses and asking people to only have takeout in restaurants. Um, I'm not a fan of that because that's people's livelihood being
Yeah,
on the line. And I don't think that people that don't work those types of businesses can even begin to understand the magnitude of this decision. I think we better have this 14-day quarantine and then get back to normalcy pretty soon. Unless we see some kind of significant change in the number of diagnosed patients, I think
yeah.
that's the only time it would be appropriate to um, continue this quarantine. But if we continue this quarantine and there's no scientific data showing us a positive result, then we're just wasting our time. We don't really know what.
If we are flattening that curve,
Yeah, if we're
like,
flattening the curve, then yes.
yeah,
But let's be honest here. Healthcare students, for example, nursing students, paramedic students, uh, PA, pre-med, respiratory therapy. Um, I personally just don't think these students are benefiting from this decision whatsoever. I think this might be I mean, I get, so there's two sides of the spectrum here. Speaking from experience, one is yes, you're going to limit how many people are actually exposed to the virus and spread it. Understandable. But this could actually be a very, very golden learning experience for healthcare students. Let's be honest.
yeah. We weren't. I think just the entire healthcare system just wasn't prepared, and like
No,
like
no,
statistically speaking,
there's
we
no
were
way.
primed. We were primed for an epidemic, uh,
Yeah,
just to come at
yeah,
some
I
point.
could see.
Like it's been in the works for a while. Like Mother Nature, she was getting ready. So yeah,
Yeah, I don't think that the lack of healthy lifestyles that the majority of Americans live is helping cases. But let's be honest here. This is what. Well,
bro,
yeah,
bro, it's gonna be worse now because people are gonna be more sedentary, right?
yes,
Because of this quarantine. Um,
yeah. So controlling the controllables. My big four that I tell everyone. Actually, let's back up a little bit. I'll hit on that in a second. But just so we don't lose our train of thought here, about healthcare students. One idea, call me crazy. Great Britain's pretty crazy, so I guess I'm kind of siding with that. Whatever the hell decision they made about not really quarantining people, but if you want to breed really good healthcare workers that are really competent and have confidence when this kind of shit happens in the future, then they should probably be doing their clinicals and classwork during the epidemic. Just my opinion. I really think that it's borderline treating. I think what's going on here is you're treating everyone the same. A communication student, for example, at the university level, does not have any business being in a classroom if the class can be done online. But a nursing student needs to be in a hospital to be a good nurse. Period. End of story. There's no way around it. They can't be the best nurse they can be from behind a computer. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, what they could do is just do small group sessions. I think I think that's something that's completely manageable. Like, as long as they're in a group of less than 10 people. I mean,
not even putting them necessarily in a hospital. You don't need to necessarily do hospital clinicals, but allowing them to do skills labs, hands-on practice in groups of 5, just bringing them in throughout the week, once a week for 4 hours, and allow them to catch up on all the skills. I don't think that's really too much to ask, but I think there needs to be a profiling system, a differentiation between students that need to be on campus and students that don't. I hate to say it, but some do and some don't.
Yeah.
The ones that don't shouldn't. The ones that really do and are actually getting hurt the most from this whole quarantine, that's where I stand. But the big 4 that I want to talk about real quick was sleep quality, exercise, nutrition, and water, because that's really the root to keeping any kind of a healthy lifestyle, is keeping those, as far as physical health goes, those 4 need to be in check.
Yeah.
And
I'd throw in just mental health as well.
Talking just physical, period. Not even. I mean, yeah, sleep and all this stuff will affect your mental health.
But that will carry over to mental health. But if you're thinking that, that's not great.
What bugs me the most is the media and popular culture. No one's fucking saying that. Everyone's talking about just hiding out in your house, in your apartment, not talking to people, covering your cough, keeping a 6-foot radius. I mean, that stuff's fine, but let's be honest. If it gets out of hand, we're going to be exposed. And if we are exposed, we want to give ourselves the best chance of fighting off the infection. It's not like once you're exposed, it's a death sentence. If you're priming your body to be healthy enough to fight off the infection, then we're going to do more good. But these things need to be in check. You can't just be sitting on the couch for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without getting any fresh air, without getting any sunlight, not eating right.
I was thinking about that a lot. I was like, okay, what is this going to do to the rate of depression? I actually want to look at the stats once this whole COVID thing is over and just see, because this is basically it's kind of like a clinical trial in some sense, because you have a group of people that are put indoors, and then there might be like a population you can compare it to, say in the past where they weren't indoors, and see how the rates of depression compare. That would be interesting, but I do think it's worth it to do to do what we're doing, obviously, but people, when like you're saying, like when they go inside, they think like they can't do anything at all to keep themselves healthy, and that's just not the case. But what's really sick, like right now, is if you look on Instagram and you look at all the different supplement companies trying to sell people shit that's gonna say like, hey, take my blank tea to help fight off COVID. And we don't even know what actually fights off COVID yet, besides just having a good functioning immune system. in some way. But
So yeah, let's go ahead and throw that statement out here. Now is not the time to buy bullshit supplements because your money's gonna be better spent elsewhere. But anyone that makes a statement that they're gonna, save your immune system during a time of an epidemic or pandemic, uh, is lying to you. There is no clinical trial. There is no proof. And if they say that it's clinically proven to do something, especially clinically proven to fight off COVID,
yeah,
3 months after the outbreak really started,
yeah.
you lied to, because there has not. If there was a clinical trial, we would know about it. And to think that your secret lab in
Bro, it's ridiculous. Like I was like going back and looking at old people I used to follow, like Ben Greenfield. He's like, buy my fucking Keon supplements that'll help you fight off. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I like, you don't realize the people you follow, like earlier in life, like there's so many like stupid people I followed for so long, but now I'm just like realizing it. When it comes to a crisis, you really see who the good people are and who like the bullshitters are. It's so clear now. And I hope people realize this, and I hope people take this and go to the evidence-based crowd.
If there was ever a time to become much more with evidence-based medicine and evidence-based practice in general, now is the time.
Yeah.
The problem is it's not cool, it's not flashy, it's not sexy, so no one's probably gonna even listen to it. But this past semester that I was in, evidence-based medicine was stressed so much, and it's continuing to be stressed in my class schedule, in my class course load, on never listening to fads and really only taking evidence-based medicine as a real truth in the medical field. And that needs to be implemented by not just students who are in nursing or in paramedicine or some kind of a medical field. It needs to be taken by everyone. If there's not evidence supporting some kind of a claim or a theory, chances are you're just being told something that's not a truth. It's not a truth.
And it's not hard to find these things either. You literally go on Google Scholar and you'll search for position statements by accredited journals that know what they're talking about and that reference their papers and are peer reviewed.
Yes.
It's not that hard. And like, if you go to the government agencies that, like the FDA, that just spout truth, I think it's really easy, really simple to put these practices into habit. It's like when people just like, they'll go against the FDA saying like, oh, they were wrong about this, and since they're wrong about this, you can't believe anything else they said. Like the whole like low carb, high fat thing, like just with nutrition, ridiculous. Like it's really sick.
Oh yeah, it is. I agree with that 100%. If you're using this time to make a buck or support your political or ideological agenda, I really just want to say fuck you, but I'm trying to get a little bit more professional.
No, you can say, please just say fuck you. Like they're
really,
like Paul Saladino is the carnivore guy. He's like my carnivore diet's gonna fix COVID. Like what are you saying? Like,
you can make that statement, and you can look at people that have used carnivore to fight off autoimmune disorders, like Jordan Peterson, for example.
Yeah.
But that's one person.
Also, when you take the foods out, you can actually, you can put them back in slowly. Like, you don't have to eat meat for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and well, unless you're in there.
Yeah, unless there's like, I don't know, there's always an exception, but
if you have autoimmune disorder, you are at a higher risk, obviously. But come on, it's getting out of hand how it's being used. I mean, even 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago. Okay, a general rule of thumb: if someone's going to use dramatic music, wide, hysterical claims, and any kind of a heavily emotional statement, a loaded statement, and absolute statements this early in a pandemic that we know very little about, it's not true, and it hasn't been a confirmed scientific truth yet.
Yep.
So the whole theory about wet markets in Wuhan, for example, that's a theory behind where this thing started, but we don't actually know that. That's not proved yet.
The data is changing every day.
It literally is changing every day. Even Dr. Mike, you can follow his YouTube channel. He's got a great channel, but even he was talking about how he bought into this theory of the Wuhan wet markets being the source of this virus, how he bought into it early on, but how now it's making less sense the more he actually understands the virus.
Mm.
And I can see that, but the thing about 60 Minutes, for example, is, maybe that's true. It very well might be. But then they started to turn it into a political agenda on
It's how they present it. It's how they present it,
Yes, it turns into an environmentalist argument instead of a scientific argument or a medical argument. And then you lose me. When you bring in a political environmentalist, what's the word? Supporter, speaker.
Agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what the guy's name was, but they brought in a gentleman that was a advocate, I guess you could say, for the modern day environmentalist movements. And he's making statements about how it's, Mother Nature's rebelling against us for treating her animals poorly and stuff. This shit needs to stop.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the misinformation and the lies. Just give us the facts, and that's all I want to hear. And that's what all we should want to hear. But now 60 Minutes has completely, lost any of my trust, and I'm not gonna even look at their shit anymore because I know they're not credible. They're making these statements, and that was even worse. It was about 2 months after the outbreak actually started.
Jeez.
It's ridiculous, man. And it's probably gonna get worse, to be honest. The more this
that's worse than Game Changers.
Yeah.
That's so much worse.
I mean, if you look at what makes a documentary attractive to people and what makes them think, it's the music, the statements, the people, the way they talk. That's the stuff that actually gets people intrigued and looking into it. But they can make any lie they want, and people are gonna believe it because it appeals to their emotion. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
It's not a logical appeal; it's an emotional appeal. And that's the issue, because we have so much information at our fingertips. There's going to be plenty of people.
For some, it actually is a logical appeal, and they just have bad logic.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like people just need some basic training in logic before, before they start making claims.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hysteria is the worst part.
What are you doing to work out right now? Do you still have the gym access?
Yeah, so I'm actually very fortunate. I have a gym next to the firehouse with a full squat rack, bumper plates, barbells, sandbags, glute ham raise, pull-up bars. We got a couple of machines. We have a full rack of dumbbells. We have an air assault bike. We have an elliptical, a treadmill, heavy bag, gloves. We're cable machine. Yeah, we're very fortunate.
People listen to they're gonna hate you right now. They're just hating you because
jealous. Like, I'm following the text method right now.
Yeah.
And I literally nothing hasn't been interrupted.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
I had to stop the bridge, bro.
Yeah.
I had to stop the bridge. I'm so pissed off. I was halfway through the bridge and I just had to stop.
I mean, yeah, who would have thought that this would, be this impactful, this issue, but it is, and make the most out of it.
It's all right. I'm getting a chance to work on calisthenics again, so.
So, how long in the prior podcast we've talked about calisthenics, and you were on a very long stint of doing calisthenics only.
I did it for like a month before December.
Yeah.
And then I had this period of like 3 months where I did the big 3, and I put on like I'd say a good 10 pounds of lean mass.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I did that because I'm pretty well trained, but this is like the first time I actually like ate a fuck ton of like food. Like I ate a lot.
That's the crazy thing, though, is I thought the same thing about the novice progression, barbell medicine's novice progression with the bridge, and it put 25, 30 pounds on my front squat, 1 rep max,
Yeah.
in conjunction with the Texas method. So a total of about 12 weeks probably. I
Jeez.
went from front squatting 275 for 5 reps, and that was RPE 10.
Fuck.
And then that was like the end of November. And then about 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, or I don't know, it was
You
a
hit
week or
you hit 305, right?
205 on front squat for five
Yeah.
reps.
5.
And
Yeah.
that was E9. I watched the video and I was like, wait a second, I probably could have done 1 or 2 more. Like I wasn't slowing down. Bar speed is something I've been really paying attention to on what my RPE number is.
Dude, that's like so important. Like the stuff, the RPE stuff that I've like learned in the past 6 months. That's
Yeah.
the most important thing. Like people can just like take away when they're training. Don't
Yeah.
don't go to failure. Like it's gonna fuck you up. It's like for all the stimulus it generates a ton more fatigue. That's just gonna carry on throughout the week, and you're gonna do less volume, and you're gonna get less of a training effect.
Yeah.
Because
And this is something that we definitely neglect in the bodybuilding community and in the hypertrophy building phase of any program. If you're hitting a muscle group once every uh, 5 to 7 days, like Jeff Nichols' hypertrophy program, for example, you're doing triceps. It's just there's what I think
I mean,
7.
you should be hitting it twice a week
Yeah,
for each body part. Because when you look at the meta analyses that have been done, twice a week is better than once a week. But
yeah,
anything more than twice a week doesn't seem to produce any more benefit.
right, right,
And it
and
also depends, like if you're doing like you're saying, if you're doing triceps, but you're also benching, you're hitting triceps more than once a week already.
yeah.
And especially if you're doing them on separate days.
Well, that's one thing that is definitely being implemented in this program is you are doing everything twice a week. Uh, in fact, you're probably doing it closer. I mean, if you think about shoulders, chest, and triceps, well, there's a whole workout for triceps, a whole workout for shoulders, and a whole workout for chest.
Right.
But all of those muscles are being used in all of those workouts to some degree. So there's definitely plenty of stimulus and frequency occurring, but his program does have some very, very, very worked really well for me in the past. But if you lift, say, in general, you're lifting just squat, bench, deadlifts, military press, and overhead press. Um, I mean, bent over row. If you're doing those 5 lifts, which is really the concentration of the Texas method, uh, you're not going to want to go till failure
Oh no.
every single workout.
Which
Now,
yeah.
it is tough though. Like I think it's very easy to underestimate the Texas method as a whole because it's fucking hard as shit to
Yeah.
go high volume every Monday. We're talking, 5 sets of 5 reps, 5 by 5 with the same weight at RPE 8, RPE 9 ish on squat and bench or squat and overhead press. And then you do 1 to 3 sets of 5 on your deadlift every single Monday.
Yeah.
Wednesday, it's kind of moving around. And then Friday, you're doing a 5 rep max on either your on both your squat and your bench and or overhead press. And to be honest, I really enjoyed it. I really am looking forward to going back. I just took a deload week this past week, so just taking some time off and getting geared up to do another 3 week stint. I mean, my goal was to get a competition in on May 2nd,
Yeah.
but the looks of it,
That's gonna happen.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
Dude,
But either way,
what I like about that undulating model is that that break in between. There's like
yeah,
so some research has been done. If you do that high volume day, right, and you put like a power day in between your high volume and your strength day, that so if you had Monday high volume, Wednesday power, and then Friday strength. The power seems to augment recovery, so you perform better on your strength day.
Absolutely. I can speak from experience as well. That would 100% make sense.
Yeah. And
I
but
really,
if you're doing like hypertrophy work, because this is a strength program, but if you were doing hypertrophy work, personally, I like to like break up volume throughout the week, because then I can like do like 3 hard sets, and I would do it, and I can per body part like 4 or 5 days a week, and I don't get sore. I'm recovered well each day, and I can push it more on each set, you know. But that's for hypertrophy. For strength, and obviously for hypertrophy, you want to train in that like 1 to 5 reps in reserve range most of the time, and then maybe at your final week before your deload, you go to failure on like one of the sets, you know, just to get some higher stimulus but higher fatigue. But you also have that deload week afterwards, so you're able to recover a little bit more and then go into your next mesocycle. But with the strength work, I like that undulating concept a lot. I'm just wondering how sustainable it would be for the long term, especially because I feel like you need some sort of transition out of that at some point. You know, like going back to hypertrophy and then maybe going back down and doing the Texas method again.
Yeah, listening to Ripito speak, I've noticed that he has said that it is a long-term program that should be done for upwards of a year. I only know a few people that actually did that, and on Reddit, I've read some articles about people that have done that for a year, and it's definitely challenging, but the results are very evident.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. They're pretty clear. The problem is like how many clinical trials has participated. It's probably not.
No, Texas method hasn't been studied, but I'm wondering, like, all that's doing, right? You're not. I don't know how much volume you're accumulating over time, right? So it's not the best for hypertrophy purposes, right? And you need some hypertrophy to keep gaining strength, right? So at what point does like your nervous system and motor unit recruitment tap out from all this strength work, and you need to give it a rest and then build up some new tissue again?
Yeah. I don't know, but I do take a deload week every 4th week. So that's been I've only done 1 cycle so far, but history will tell.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, this past week was a deload week, so I just did some fun pump training pretty much every day up until today. I won't train today. I won't train tomorrow, and I won't train Sunday, and I'll start back up on Monday.
I did some pump training too yesterday. I did sets of 20 on pistol squats.
Oh God.
That was and I did it like RP 9.
Yeah. I don't know how good dude.
That was brutal.
How many sets did you do?
3 sets.
Wow.
That was some of the most brutal stuff I've done in a while. Like I was very surprised.
I would imagine. And
I was holding like a 40-pound dumbbell in my hand, like just like a goblet. But it sucked.
Damn. That's impressive. So how do you program for calisthenics?
I think it's the same for, like, it depends on what you're doing, obviously. Like, hypertrophy is pretty simple. You want to steadily increase volume over time until you reach your, like, maximum recoverable volume, MRV. And once you hit that threshold's the point where you can no longer make hypertrophic adaptations without this mass. It's the point at which you can't make adaptations, and then your progress just stalls or it just starts regressing, and once you hit that MRV, you take a deload, and then you go back down to a volume that's more sustainable. That's like your minimum effective volume, your MEV, and then you build up again. to your MRV. So you have these like waves of mesocycles, like periods of, you start at your MEV, you hit your MRV, deload, back down to your MEV, you know, and you just keep cycling that. And I think that's like, for body weight training, I feel like you can do that. Like what I like to do is that I have a rep range that I stick to. Like you go 8 to 20 reps. So you pick an exercise that you can do 8 reps with, right? And then you progress it until you can get to 20 over that mesocycle. Once you hit 20, and you can do that for 3 sets of 20 at the given RPE, you progress the exercise. So that would be like you're doing an elevated push-up, right? And then you're going to get a little bit lower. You're going to make the push-up a little bit harder. Once you hit that 3 sets of 20 threshold, you drop back down to 3 sets of 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just like you would program for any hypertrophy.
I mean, like kind of, except like you have this range of reps that you just keep building through the reps. And then once you get extremely good at it and you cap off at that 20 rep mark, you just you progress the exercise to something harder.
Yeah.
And that would be a way to progress calisthenics.
Okay. Is that the same thing that Dr. Mike Israetel prescribes?
I haven't heard him talk a lot about calisthenics. He does the MEV, MRV stuff. Right. So I threw that in there, but then I'm like, okay, but how do I actually progress this? Because I don't have weights, right? If you had weights, it would be really simple. Once you hit 8 reps and you can do it for 3 sets of 8 at RPE, whatever, right? Then you can progress the weight again.
Yeah.
But with this, like, it's weird because the progressions, you don't know exactly how much weight you're increasing and decreasing by changing your body position. So a better way to approach it would be this rep range idea, where you just increase reps for a period of time and develop technical proficiency with the skill. And then you move to a harder version of that skill once you get all the proficiency required.
Okay. So that's very much it's a linear progression to a point, but it's undulating, and now I can understand how you're doing it now. See, that's the thing with calisthenics.
It's not undulating because the rep ranges aren't changing throughout the week. It's like a gradual increase in reps and then back down. So it's like a long-term undulation, rather than the short-term undulation idea. But I think there would be like, that's strictly hypertrophy though.
And would you prescribe that for athletes as well?
No. I feel like that's strictly for hypertrophy. I feel like, so with athletes, I think you would do that hypertrophy block for maybe like 2 mesocycles, and then you'd obviously throw in like strength and power work in there, right? As maintenance. You wouldn't do it, to make adaptations, because all your adaptations are going to hypertrophy. And this would be something you do in the off season, right?
Yeah.
You have that maintenance, strength and power work built into the hypertrophy mesocycles. And then once you come out of your hypertrophy mesocycles, I think that's when you begin to undulate throughout the week and focus more on strength. And that's when you get into harder calisthenic exercises.
And as far as training a mass group, like a large group of athletes, say remotely, like you're training from a satellite situation, how would you go about doing this?
I mean, I wrote it down in the program. I wrote down like a 12-page program on the hypertrophy mesocycle. Training remotely with like technique modifications is going to be impossible. Because they're just going to keep sending you videos, and you're going to keep having to send them back, and it's never going to really work out. But like in terms of making sure they're just making sure that they can do it with the equipment they have. Like obviously, if you have access to a pull-up bar and bands, you're so much better off than someone who has none of that. And I'd considering the situation now, I would urge people to invest in bands and pull-up bars because they will serve you for a long time. I've had mine for like 8 years and it's never broken. So I feel like it's a good investment, especially if you don't want to be doing like towel rows and like towel curls.
Yeah, I don't even bother.
I actually found a way to make towel rows hard. Here's what I did. I hooked it around my foot, and I did a bent over row with my foot as resistance.
Yeah.
You hear
So
what I'm saying? So like I put my foot in the middle of the towel. I grab the towel on both ends with my hand, and as I pull, I push with my foot.
okay.
So I'm adding resistance manually
Yeah.
as I do and I can do the same thing. I can do the same thing with like a hammer curl.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you take a towel and like a neutral grip, that would work too.
And it's an isometric exercise, correct?
No, you can do it through. Yeah, so as you pull, your foot's pushing.
Okay.
So it's a hard rep. Like you can make it easier or harder depending on how hard you push with your leg.
Yeah. Wow.
You can also do an ISO too, though. So yeah, you can also do ISOs with that. Like you don't need your foot to do an ISO though. You can just like grab a door handle and pull as hard as you can.
Yeah. Be careful not to pull the door off the hinges though.
Yeah. You can also do like a towel deadlift, like an isometric deadlift.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That would work too.
See,
Those are hard as shit though. Like I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that at all. That's like so demanding, like centrally demanding that I wouldn't even bother programming that for most people unless you're like a really high caliber strength athlete and you want to maintain some sense of strength because you've lost your barbell.
yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, you have weights at home, don't you?
Yeah, I have dumbbells at home.
Yeah, so like that's nice. But like imagine not having anything.
I'd be fine, bro. I'd be fine. I'll do my towel rows. I'll do my towel curls.
I'm sure you would.
It'll all be good. I'll do my one arm push ups, my pistol squats. Like to progress and regress exercises without any weight. Say you're just bare bones right now. I mean, there's a lot you can do still. You can do tempo. You can do unilateral movements. You can do pause variations, right? You can also do back-to-back supersets, working the same muscle. So you can do a set of pistol squats and then go right into a set of lunges, and that will fatigue the crap out of you. There's a lot you can do still without weights to make exercises extremely difficult and extremely metabolically demanding on you.
So what about
That would be brutal though.
yeah. What about frequency? How often are you doing each exercise?
What I have right now is I have 2 days a week I'm doing pistols. 2 days a week I'm doing single leg sissy squats. So it would be like each exercise is twice a week. And 3 sets per exercise. So I got like 12 sets per body part right now. And then as I go through the mesocycle, I think my max out is at 18 sets per body part per week.
Okay. So would you not recommend a drastic increase in frequency, such as doing the exercise 4 times a week?
It depends on the intensity. It depends on the intensity you do it. And if you increase frequency that much, you also jack up volume a lot too. And you don't want to jack up volume too quickly, otherwise that you're predisposing yourself to injury. Because like there's this like acute to chronic workload ratio, right? If you increase training volume significantly from 1 week to the next, that's correlated with injury in some way. So I would advise against increasing frequency over the mesocycle unless you start with like 4 times per week. Then you can just break up your volume more. you know?
Right. So you don't work out for as long per day.
Yeah, I mean, like what I do right now is I don't have like one big workout. I just break it up, yeah, like you're saying, throughout the day. Doing something similar to Pavel, except like this is actually like demanding, you know.
Yeah.
But I would do like grease in the groove type stuff if I was working on a new skill and I wanted some added volume without the intensity, and I'm just getting skill practice. But that's different, you know.
That's definitely, speaking of Pavel, a underutilized tool is a kettlebell. Uh, Using a kettlebell at a time like this, having one adjustable kettlebell with weight plates
Yeah,
to add on to it, that can take you a long way.
that does go.
Um,
Yeah.
Especially for heavy swings, presses, Turkish get-ups, sit-ups. I mean, that's a very good tool that can be used at this time.
Problem is you're not for the power lifters,
Oh,
right?
it's
You're not benching, you're not squatting, you're not deadlifting. So some strength is gonna be lost no matter what. But the good news is that strength comes back pretty quickly.
right.
You know, it doesn't take that long. If you've made the adaptations before, um, you have the resources to bring it back.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. It's almost like the immune system making copies of a pathogen that's intruded the body before. Once you've been infected with something similar to that, it has the replication reserved to help you fight off a similar infection in the future. Mark Ripetaro says it right in his I think it was his article that's called Strength and Conditioning / Conditioning and Strength, and he talks about how strength should be prioritized over conditioning.
I
And
I agree with that. But
yeah,
here's what I'm thinking. Like I think it depends on the context, right? If you're training athletes like wrestlers, for example, right? They're getting most of their conditioning work when they're wrestling, correct?
right,
Right. So they don't need to do a lot of extra conditioning, right? Most of that, like you're saying, should be prioritized towards strength. Now, if you're taking a gen pop client, if you're taking a general population person, right? They need to do some cardio. um, that I
uh,
think it's pretty essential, and that's in accord with the physical activity guidelines right now as of 2018. I think that you should do at least two. I think it's 2 or 3 30-minute aerobic sessions per week. I think that's between like 120, 150 beats per minute. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and I agree with that. And being made that Tara points out is the fact that strength, once you're strong, you're always strong to a degree, but conditioning comes and goes. 6 weeks of hard conditioning, you can be in damn good shape, but 2 weeks off, it ain't gonna be there the
yeah,
same way it was. But it comes and goes. Conditioning the heart as a muscle is not the same. You can't linear progress it the way you can with strength. It's just
right.
that simple.
Yeah, it's
Um,
aerobic
to get
adaptation
much
is
more.
like really weird. I haven't looked into like endurance programming that much. I
Yeah,
think personally, I think it's really difficult to do, because I think it really depends on the individual, and where they're at. Not saying that strength programming doesn't depend on the individual, because obviously it does, but I think there are more generalities between people in with regards to strength and endurance.
yeah. I think something to be considered is the actual physiological systems being utilized in any kind of a aerobic activity. Talking the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, and the nervous system really working in conjunction with one another. Obviously, circulatory as well, but it's not just a fat burner. It's not just something to get you lean. It's not something that just do for 20 minutes here and there to get fasted cardio, all this stuff that has come and gone with fads. But if you look at what's actually going on here, is you're conditioning your body's ability to withstand any kind of either an onslaught of demand, such as an aerobic activity like a sprint,
Yep.
or a continued systematic demand like going up 6 flights of stairs, for example. But these are daily activities that should be utilized, not just in the gym. Elevators obviously have destroyed that for us. But my guess would be that respiratory issues in general would be greatly cut down on with the general population if we didn't have elevators and we didn't drive there. But if we walked to places that we could easily walk to and didn't choose to drive, we would have that much better cardio. If we decide to take the stairs every day instead of the elevator, our overall respiratory and cardiovascular health is going to be greatly increased. We also fail to remember that pretty much 3 days of total inactivity, your lung tissue already starts to diminish. And with the elderly population, you can literally develop serious pneumonia or pneumonia-like symptoms, especially with a COPD patient, for example, with high rates of inactivity. Because you decide to do things that increase your heart rate is really the only reason why the respiratory system and the cardiovascular system work well and work consistently. But it needs to be used on a very consistent basis, and you don't need to kill yourself. You can take it easy.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, the problem is the consistency, and you always go back to that. Like, what's going to make people consistent, and it's whatever they like to do. You know, people have to find something they like to do and just keep doing it. And that's especially like true with cardio. Like, it's going to be harder with resistance training because there's really only a few ways to do it right, like body weight, kettlebell, or barbell, or dumbbell, or machines. But besides that, like, no one's gonna get resistance training benefits from doing like a Jane Fonda workout, you know.
No.
But yeah, with cardio, I think there's a lot more flexibility for people to adhere to it, and I think that's why you see more people gravitate towards cardio first when they go back to exercise, because they know that they can find something that's manageable for them within that realm.
Yeah, and it's crazy how many people say, who don't know much about fitness in general, say, I'm going to go to the gym, for example, and then they go to the gym and they, run or walk on a treadmill or whatever, they do cardio, and then you ask them why they don't lift weights, and they tell you they don't know how. But the real reason that I think can ultimately be traced back to, not for everyone, but for some people, is the fact that they think they need to go heavy into failure.
Yeah, especially beginners.
And the answer is get good at an exercise, especially beginners. Like, they don't need to be going to failure, and they don't need to be going super heavy relative to their strength and body weight. But it's a misconception because of fucking social media and YouTube. Is all they see is these guys pumping massive weights, and they think that they have an actual set starting point when they don't. Everyone has a different starting point, and we fail to recognize and acknowledge that.
Yeah, dude, it's terrible. Like, I started at like 100 pounds. Like, like some people, and I'm 180, and some people start at 180 and they go to 250. It's or 260. It's the same relative increase, but it's just two different people.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what your height. There is no ideal. People I've even asked people have asked me before, like, hey bro, what's your height? What's your weight? I want to have something to compare myself to, and because we're the same height, so it's enough. And it's like, no, dude, like, your shoulders are half a foot broader than mine. Therefore, we don't have the same body type, period. We don't. So making a comparison to someone else's weight or physique, that's even worse. Physique, so much of that is going to be genetic. I know I've seen people that have had 9% body fats, and you can't see their abs. And then you have people like me who eat like pigs and just get lucky.
You're better though. You're better now. So
yeah, I'm better now, but there have been times in the past where I could still see my abs, and I was I was eating not well at
Yeah.
all by any means. I think it's just important to really recognize the massive individual components of this whole tragic comedy called fitness.
You're not wrong, dude. It's terrible. It's terrible. Like just watching Instagram grow and then watching the amount of body dysmorphia issues
Yeah.
simultaneously rising.
Yeah, I've gotten so sick and tired of reading fitness posts and taking anyone on the internet seriously that I've kind of just stopped. If I stop by a post that I think is cool, I'll go to like. But am I going to read a full article in someone's Instagram description? No, absolutely not. Am I going to, like, even, people I've looked up to in the past, like, even like, for example, Bar Shrugged. And now it's like, now they call it the Shrugged podcast or something like that. I don't know.
I think it's called the Shrugged Collective.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I don't has happened with that, but it used to be a really, really fun podcast. I don't really know what it's doing anymore. Um, I'm not hip to it. I used to watch, all the episodes with Rich Frowning, and
Mhm.
they were really cool guests, and they would be it'd be a lot of fun to listen to. Like, it would genuinely be very enjoyable to listen to. But then I think the whole like woo woo hippie type stuff kind of took over a little bit,
Yeah.
and they started inviting people on there that would trash barbell training, for example. Um, the primal swolger coming on and saying deadlifts are bad for your back, and all shit like that.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I'm not shitting on him. I'm not shitting on the podcasts, but I don't care if you have a variety of guests that have different statements. But if that whole podcast was founded upon the common interests of Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting.
Yep.
That's why I listen to it, and CrossFit, of course. That's why I listen to it. I don't really know what happened, but I started listening to that podcast when I was in high school, and here we are 3-4 years later, and the content is completely different. I'm not interested in stopping by and reading 4 paragraphs underneath an Instagram post.
Yeah.
It's just not very. I mean, if I'm going to listen to someone, it's going to be a trusted source.
I gotta stop doing that, bro.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's just me.
I wrote
That's just
a whole article on an Instagram post yesterday.
yeah, and that's what blogs are for.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think Instagram. I haven't really been keeping up with it, but I think Instagram should be 2 paragraphs tops.
Yeah. I'm gonna change that.
I don't. Another thing is expressing their emotional um, experiences or traumas, what have you,
Mm-hmm.
via social media, productive or not. I've gone really back and forth with this one because I think there are some cases where this is like a very powerful thing that if you have the guts to do it, it's worth doing.
Yeah.
The moment it becomes victimization and attention seeking, it becomes a big shit show. So I think it depends on your intentions and what you say.
Yeah.
But there have been all kinds of different statements now about don't say this kind of stuff, don't say that kind of stuff. And I think that you should say what the fuck you want to say on your own social media. Like, it's yours, so people should say whatever they want to say. But I've gone back and forth on does this help someone's emotional state, or does it really make things worse in the end?
Mm-hmm.
Say you talk about something you struggled with for years, and it doesn't get as much attention as you wish it did, or it gets as many likes as you hoped it
Well,
would.
but it might get the right attention though.
Right, it might get the right attention, but for the writer, I wonder what it is, because let's be honest, we have enough people, writing that kind of stuff
Yeah.
now that we could do research on it. The research based community, whoever researches social media usage and stuff, we know people do it. I would be interested to find out.
Yeah. I'd say like if it's something that's gonna help a lot of people, I think the more the better.
Yeah, and I
Um,
could see
I
that
think I think if it's something, controversial, I'm not so sure about that, like you're saying.
yeah,
Um,
I agree with that.
yeah.
It really does depend. And politics, hell no.
This is the problem with like, I think you're right. Just like let people say whatever they want to say because you can't once you filter out the bad things, you're also going to filter out some good things too. It's yeah, it's tough, but I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Just think of,
Yeah.
that's pretty much all I got though.
Yeah, that's all I got too.
Yeah, I think I think it's important to check in periodically on where we stand with the virus and such.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be okay.
I'm sure we'll be fine. I'm just really pissed that I can't go back to school at all.
It really does suck. It really does suck. But does it piss me off to see college students complaining on social media?
Dude, don't get me started with that. Just like because their fucking
I
spring
mean,
break is gone.
well, no, but like, if like I said, if you're a major that doesn't require you to be on campus, that you could do the exact same work off campus, then you're complaining about, not being at school, but not school itself. For some of us, we need to actually be on campus to
Yeah,
get.
no, like yeah, I need to do research. Yeah, I had a research position.
It needs to be done on campus. We can't do that shit from home.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Just the college kids like just keep they're the ones that are like still on spring break
Yeah.
and still like in mass crowds. I think that's really childish.
Yeah, like the ones that are, out in, you know, local, I mean, not local, public vacation spots, and they're just getting. That's
Just
a really bad idea.
it's
Let's
just
be honest. Like, the social distancing thing wouldn't exist if there wasn't some truth to it. Yes, it has value, but to a crowd of 100 drunk idiots slobbering all over each other, yeah.
terrible.
But it's a free country.
Yeah, you're right. All right, bro. That's all I got. Um, but we should do this next week if you have time.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
You think you'll have time with like online classes now?
Yeah, it definitely varies with with how that class schedule works. I don't really know my schedule because
Yeah.
I don't know because I'm not sure how yet. They
Mhm.
haven't told us, right? But we're gonna play it by ear, and I'll let you know.
All right. Sounds good.
But yeah, are you still recording?
I'm about to stop it or pause it.
Okay.